It's the Infinite Podcast. Go tell your friends. It's the Infinite Podcast. My God, it never ends. It's the Infinite Podcast with Rob and quirky.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Project Infinite Podcast, the podcast covering the infinite and ever-expanding multiverse of fandom from movies, comics, TV shows, video games. We've got you covered. I'm Rob. I'm here, as always, finally, once again. We're back. I'm here with Court. Court, how's it going, man?
It's good to be back.
What was that?
I'm back. I'm thinking I'm back.
All right, there we go. We got it.
We're getting all the technical difficulties out of the way now.
Yeah. Shake the ring rust off.
Yeah, we're back.
We're back. It's been a while, for a multitude of reasons, but primarily because of the writers and actors strike that was going on over the last few months. And just our schedules just didn't work to do little in-between episodes, so we just, went on a little hiatus, and now we are back as the strikes have ended. Shout out to everyone on the picket lines for the writers and actors that, struck these deals with these corporations and studios and got what they wanted, or,
deserved.
What they deserved, yeah. Deserved and wanted, and the strikes are now over, and we have a couple new agreements. So the writers got their deal first, and a couple things that, came with that was AI not being able to be used to write scripts, which, the episode that we did while the strike, when the strike first started, where we kind of were detailing what that was all about. The AI thing was the big thing, and the writers got what they needed on that, in the sense that AI will not be able to be used to write scripts. AI generated content can't be considered literary, assigned, or source material. It can be used as a tool, provided that the production company consents, but other than that, AI will not basically have credit for that, which is great. Obviously AI is on the rise. Over pretty much this past year, we've seen a rise in AI generated art, AI generated, writing.
Narrative itself, beats of AI have been just running rampant over the last couple. We just had a movie we just had two major releases over the last 3 months where their whole point was about AI. Maybe AI is the villain.
Yeah. So great that they were able to come to terms on that. Another big talking point, both on the actors and writer side, was streaming residuals.
Yeah.
A number of writers and actors have come out while the strike was going on and being like, look how little money I make from these residuals, and these are...
And we're talking some A-list actors.
Yeah.
Absolute, titans of industry were making close to nothing for these shows they were putting years of their lives into.
Yeah, so now they're going to get a roughly a 76% increase from streaming residuals, which is a lot, especially for, the lower tier group. And then another big thing for the writers was obviously increased minimum rates, which is super important. Minimums will be increasing upwards of 5% this year, and then it kind of cascades from there, which is great. Again, a lot of this, as we talked about, was for the kind of bottom line of that's what these people were really striking for, was for make sure that the floor is taken care of, not so much the ceiling. So getting minimum staffing in writing rooms, and then we're going to talk about this a little bit later with Marvel, where throughout the course of the strike, we learned a lot kind of about the process that a company like Marvel goes through, especially when writing TV shows, is they weren't really requiring writers or showrunners to kind of concept things. They were just kind of leaving it to the studio heads, and that kind of screwed things up.
Yeah.
Specifically for Marvel. So, it's not a surprise that in the wake of these agreements that Marvel has since restructure their TV system where they're going to actually have showrunners and writers conceptualizing these things.
And you know what's funny about that one is we live in this age too of that's a huge sell of your shows as your showrunner. I mean, just to call one out, let's just talk about Craig Mazin in The Last of Us. Like, the fact that he was the showrunner gave that show a little bit of an extra boost. It already had that, you know, it had that energy going in, what you need, but adding Craig Mazin on top of that, having a showrunner that's dedicated to the art of the thing, not the money-making machine of the thing. I think that was super important. So I think, you know, the microcosm and, you know, a big portion of this episode is we're going to talk about the future of, you know, one of the biggest, if not the biggest movie franchise of all time, and kind of how their hand was dipped into this whole thing as well too. But
yeah, and then, I mean, a lot of the other things on here just relay, in terms of getting like a showrunner training program, $250,000 in annual funding for a showrunner training program, which is really great. You know, there's just a lot of other things about mostly the streaming services, mostly the AI stuff. So, shout out to the writers. Obviously, they got their deal first. And then on the actor side of things, the big things that they got was a kind of, again, back with the streaming thing. So the new contract calls for actors that earn a success payment along with other usual residual payments if they work on streaming projects that attract a significant number of viewers, which is really great, especially for, like, you talk about like syndication shows, you talk about shows that are popular that go on Netflix, which is super important. Also, one that I feel like a lot of people maybe didn't pay attention to, but is important, is the disclosure of viewership statistics, which, you know, a lot of streaming producers are very coy with a lot of the time. I know Netflix was a big kind of proponent of this, where they kind of hide like what their actual numbers are behind like a degree of other like show metrics, essentially.
Like, they'll use like, this is, I mean, anytime you go on network television, they'll tell you this is the number one new stream. Yeah, because you were the only show that dropped today. Of course you're going to be the number one show.
Yeah, so now streaming producers will be required to disclose the total number of hours the content was streamed, both in the US and Canada and abroad for each quarter, intended to help actors determine if they're being fairly compensated relative to a show's distribution and popularity, which I think is great. And then again, the artificial intelligence piece, must obtain consent from actors to create and use their digital replicas, as well as specify how they intend to use that digital likeness. Actors are entitled to compensation at their usual rate for the number of days they would otherwise have been paid for to do the work being performed by the digital replica, which is super important. Because, like we said, there's been deployment of this tactic in the past as far as using digital replicas of actors.
Right.
And now those actors will be getting paid for as if they were on set for that work, which is great. And then just basic other things like relocation bonuses, minimum number of background actors being worked on, which is, you know, important for background actors. So that shows will have to use more background actors, so more people get work, which I think is super good. So all in all, just a great deal all around. Sometimes you don't get what you want without a little disruption, you know? So much needed, much congratulations to all the actors and writers on getting what they deserve. And, you know, we wasted no time getting back into the swing of things with a lot of other things and news and notes. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about, this week, is just some things that we have opinions on, more or less. So right before the strike was coming, we were obviously getting ready for the D-Day of movies.
Yep. I couldn't wait.
Barbenheimer Happened.
Oh, you weren't talking about Bird Box Barcelona. Oh, okay. My bad.
So Barbenheimer officially came and went, and it lived up to the hype.
Oh, I mean, it lived up to the hype and then some. We got two absolutely monumental. It was probably one of the biggest days in like movie history, and that's not even hyperbole. I think that's just straight fact. I mean, we saw Oppenheimer on the opening night, I believe, and man, oh man, was that movie everything and then some that you would ever want it to be. That movie was incredible. It was it was potent, I think, to use an adjective. It's visceral, it's thought-provoking, but I mean, I guess the biggest call-out for that movie is, I like to make this point, and I've told a bunch of people this, that, in my opinion, you can toss up what Christopher Nolan's best movie is between Interstellar and The Dark Knight, in my opinion. This one could be in contention, but this is the best movie he's ever directed. Like, this is the best he's ever directed anything in his entire life, down to perform. This is probably the best he's ever done with performances, too, because, Christopher Nolan lives in this realm of, spectacle and, grandiose blockbuster, but like that cinema blockbuster. But in terms of performances he was pulling out of actors, it was surreal. It was absolutely incredible. There is no contention for Cillian Murphy for Best Actor, in my opinion, for this year. I don't think anybody is going to even give him a run at this point. This is the best movie of the year at this point. This is without me seeing Killers of the Flower Moon. That's probably one of the only big releases that I haven't seen from this movie, or from this year so far. But at this point, without seeing that, Oppenheimer lived up to everything that you would want it to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a biopic that made $1 billion. Like,
it's just absurd.
That just shouldn't happen. That's not a thing that happens. It's 3 hours of just mostly people having conversations. And the fact that it's as captivating as it was.
Well, I told you, the whole thing of this movie on face front, to the people that aren't like us, not the nerds, this movie's about the nuclear bomb. Obviously, it's about Oppenheimer, but it's about the nuclear bomb. That's the MacGuffin. That's the thing, right? They detonate the nuclear bomb halfway through this movie, so you still have a whole nother half a movie. The most magnetic part of the movie was the third act of this movie, and they were all courtroom hearings. It was just absolutely electric the entire time. That cast, obviously one of the bits that we ran for a long time was that cast. It's so funny that came full to fruition, because the cast lived up to every piece of hype you can ask for. Everybody bought it. I mean, if we were to give our heat check performance for this, and obviously we're going to talk about Oppenheimer as its own movie, but if we were to give a heat check, I mean, there's legit, and this isn't, over exaggerating, there's like 8 to 10 people in that movie you can give a heat check to. They were all incredible. But again, hats off to Christopher Nolan and team. That movie is just, it's what gets me motivated as a movie maker. Like, that's everything I would want to be able to do on a set. Practical sets, great actors, great composer, great crew, incredible cast. Just, that's like the microcosm of everything that makes cinema incredible. It was Oppenheimer.
Yeah. And then and then Barbie came out.
That would have been the perfect time to do the 2001 theme when you said that too, because there's this little movie, didn't make a lot of money, called Barbie, that came out on the same day.
It actually made heaps of money.
Yeah, it actually made more money. Not only did it make more money, it made the most money of this year so far.
I don't remember if did it beat out Mario?
I don't know if it beat out Mario, but it was in the top 3 of this year for just straight money. Man, I love Greta Gerwig so much. I love her vision. And I love I love her understanding of how
it did beat Mario.
It did beat Mario. I love her understanding for how precious movies are and how precious, this medium is. But also understanding this is a Barbie movie and let's have fun. Like, it's okay to have a little bit of fun, or a lot of bit of fun. And that's, this movie was incredibly, it was very human, for lack of a better term. I mean, that was one of the big, focal points of that movie, was how human that it was. It's extremely self-aware of itself. Under a different filmmaker, this movie is an absolute nightmare. Under a different cast, this is an absolute nightmare, but you need somebody that understands movies the way that Greta Gerwig does to get this made.
Yeah. It was a
arguably more emotional bits than Oppenheimer Barbie had.
This movie was a revelation. It was genuinely funny. Just like bit after bit, that like is a testament to it. We started with the strike. The writing of this movie was just
there's no computer that can do this. There's
God,
Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig. There's no computer that does this.
The jokes had so many layers to them. And I mean, what can you say about Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie? That, like, oh man, they just crushed it. That
really is Barbie and Ken.
Yeah. I mean, the way they played the characters was just, I don't have words for it. I mean, that movie was tight, man. It was tight, and it was like
Chico Salamanca. tight.
You struggle to find really any kind of glaring issue with it. Mm-hmm. It's like everything there is so intentional. From every shot is intentional, every scene is intentional, every line of dialogue is intentional. Mm-hmm. There's no wasted space. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about a movie trailer in a little bit where like the dialogue is just like,
here, read this.
Yeah. And whereas this, like, there's so much going on and it's so smart. Like, it invokes kind of those, early to late 80s kind of comedies that were just so ahead of their time and so smart.
Yep.
And so, just effortlessly inclusive and effortlessly just
they're endearing. They're made. And one of the arguments who is this movie made for? Like, it's made for everybody. Like, this movie is truthfully for everybody. Yeah. It's about purpose. It's truthfully about purpose, your purpose.
And to your point, like, there's a million ways it could have gone wrong. And it could have just been another cash grabby IP type film, but that's not what it was. Like, the IP was almost secondary to the overall point of the movie. But yeah, man, the whole Barbenheimer shtick lived up to it to a degree that such we're never gonna have something like that ever again.
I think the icing to end this too, the icing on the cake for that is the day itself could have just been the fact that it's a Barbie movie, but like, to get two quality movies and not only quality, I mean, some of the in my opinion, Oppenheimer is at this point the definer of the 2020s is probably Oppenheimer. It's probably Everything Everywhere All at Once and Oppenheimer are like the definitive definers of the 2020s so far. And then Barbie, in terms of these franchise movies that you're getting, Barbie probably is one of the best versions of any of these that you could have gotten.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, the numbers back that up. I mean, when you go to the top 10 best grossing movies of the year, Barbie is 1, the Mario movie is 2, Oppenheimer's 3. I mean, Oppenheimer sticks out so much in this top 10 list.
It's R-rated. It's his second R-rated movie. He did Memento, and then he went straight into PG-13s. Like, there's, again, funny enough, obviously it's Christopher Nolan, but there's a lot of ways where this movie could have went, not south, because obviously you're still going to get quality, but there's a lot of ways that this movie couldn't have been this, but the product that, I hate this, but the finished product that we got for Oppenheimer, it needs to be, like, studied how incredible everything to a T that movie was.
Yeah, there's nothing else like Oppenheimer in this top 10. I mean, the rest of the top 10 is Guardians 3, Fast X, Across the Spider-Verse, Little Mermaid, Mission Impossible, Elemental, and then Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania are the top 10. Like, there's no other movie like Oppenheimer on this list. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Right.
It's absolutely insane.
And it makes you believe that this whole, I hate to be pretentious, but this whole cinema thing, cinema is such a loose term, and cinematic are two loose terms that, fly off the tongue in the last couple of years, but it gives, it should give everybody hope that, movies like that's how it used to be. Like, that those were the movies that people were going to see. It gives me hope that, we can get this high level quality from these classic filmmakers and they can still dominate at the box office and everybody's talking about them for weeks, months to come, years to come.
Yeah. Man.
So Madam Web.
Yeah, I mean, anything else from the last couple months that you want to hit?
No, I mean, we got
Ahsoka?
Yeah, we got Ahsoka over the last couple of months. That show, we're obviously going to review that show at some point, but I think that show is a perfect example of what Star Wars could be to an extent, because I do have some issues with that show. I have some production issues with that show that I'll talk about once we review it. I still think Rosario Dawson, at first I was on one of those people that were on the fence about Rosario Dawson, and then the show came out and I was like, I get it. I understand.
Yep. And
she's old. Like, she's old. She's
older, and she got, I think as the show went along, I don't know whether it's a behind the scenes thing or testament to the writing, but it does feel like she got more comfortable as the show went along, and it feels like she got more quote unquote Ahsoka like as the show went along. And I mean, what else are you gonna say other than, I mean, Hayden Christensen came back,
man,
and they gave us they gave us everything. They gave us what
this is the Clone Wars.
Yeah. They gave us the full Anakin Skywalker experience, which was super cool. I mean, there's really no other. You know, sometimes they do the fan servicey stuff, and this was an example of when you do it and you do it good. Like there's no other feeling like it. Yeah. When they pull off what they pulled off with him in the in that basically Clone Wars kind of redux episode. So we talked about it when we talked about it with Obi-Wan. Just him coming back was it just felt right. He did so well in that episode. Like I'm so happy that we got those moments. And yeah, man, I thought it was really solid across the board. Thrawn returned. Somehow Thrawn returned.
And yeah, I mean, we'll definitely wait for the review to go, super in depth. But I think that still probably is outside of the Mandalorian season 1. That probably is the best we've ever gotten from the Star Wars Disney era at that point. Or my bad, Andor doesn't count. Andor's it's too good.
It's in its own space.
Inside of like that Skywalker realm, I'll say. Yeah. Just a couple quick beats to hit. Talk to me. I mean, anytime these indies come out, and obviously horror indies over the last couple of years have been running rampant, that's like your Black Phone from last year, but more popular. And that gives me hope because 2 YouTubers made that movie, and it was one of the most talked about movies for a couple months there, which is awesome. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, that's just definitely something we're going to talk about.
A lot of fun.
I think that movie is pretty dang good, and I think it's pretty fun. It's stylistic. It's resonant and understands the demographic it's trying to hit, and counter to that same point, it also was very, and the demographic it's trying to hit is everybody. Like it's for your OG Turtles fans, it's for your kids, like the kids that are going to see this movie. I remember we saw it, and it had a very good turnout of different types of people in that movie theater. It was remember we said it to each other when we were walking out. There was this dad that had like the Ninja Turtle shirt on, and he was with his kids. Like, that's amazing. Like, that's awesome. Like, that's the whole point of this whole thing. I thought that was super fun. I mean, we got Gran Turismo. You're gonna strap that kid to a $2 million rocket. Keep doing the acting, David Harbour. You're doing great.
Look, man, video game movies are the thing now. They just are.
Oh, man. What else did we get? We got just some other big ones. I mean, The Creator was was the last movie that or before the Marvels, that was the last movie that we saw together. Shout out Gareth Edwards. I think you're doing the Lord's work, and that's not even...
Low budget disaster king, we call him.
Low budget disaster king. I mean, this, I love sci-fi. It's my favorite genre because I always say you get the best human emotion out of sci-fi. It pulls it. It's kind of the microscope of what the human condition is always going to come out of sci-fi, and I think he delivers on this. I think this is probably the best I've seen John David Washington in his career. His relationship with the little girl in this movie is incredible. And it's it's very present feeling, this movie. It's very, very loud. It speaks very loud, but I love the way that Gareth Edwards shoots. Obviously, Greg Fraser, they did a 2 cinematographer setup, and the big thing for this movie is that they used these Sony FX3s, these affordable cinema cameras that you can go buy at Best Buy probably right now, to shoot this, high budget $80 million movie. And, it gives a lot of motivation to people like me. So I think The Creator is a very big standout in the sci-fi genre, and just the overall, did 2 things. It was the sci-fi genre that we needed, like a new sci-fi universe that wasn't attached to anything. And it's also the idea that we don't need everything and anything from a studio or, money-wise just to make a good movie. You don't need any of those things.
Yeah.
And Taylor Swift's Eras Tour.
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift?
Taylor Swift, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, no, we did the thing we said we weren't going to do. Oh no, we talked about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift.
Hey, man. It's culture.
Are we Swifties?
It's cinema. It is actually cinema.
Yeah, it is. All right, next.
What else we got? What else happened? Spider-Man.
Yeah. Spider-Man. I watched The Killer the other day. David Fincher.
Was it good?
It's great. It's great. It's classic Fincher. I mean, it's... I said this too, because I know, obviously, Scorsese's Tarantino, they kind of... A lot of their... or most of their movies have been all... Or the last couple movies they've made have been all in a different time period for the both of them. So... I think every movie that Scorsese's made in the last couple of years have been in a different time period. So the fact that Fincher, one of these, like, you know, quote unquote Rushmore filmmakers, you know, the Rushmore is probably 20 long, but you know what I mean. To make a modern day movie, like a movie that's set in the modern day, I think was really well done. It's just good to see. That movie's gorgeous. So go check that out. It's on Netflix. It's good stuff. What else do we got coming out this year? I think that's a better question.
Coming up this year?
Yeah, we got the Hunger Games, the Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes. I'm looking forward to.
I'm also looking forward to that.
Was I a Hunger Games kid growing up? Heck yeah, I was. Oh, Napoleon. Maybe this might be one of the most controversial movies of this year. We're back. We're back. Oh man. You know what else we got left this year? We have two big fandom ones, and one's not what you're expecting. One of them's Aquaman, was the one you were expecting. The other one's Wonka we still have left.
Oh, man.
Making chocolate, of course. We love you, Timmy.
Let's see, what else we got? What else have we missed out on? I mean,
Gen V, we didn't even talk about yet. Just really quickly on Gen V. Was not expecting that for even the slightest bit. That show is
so good.
That show is truthfully The Boys 3.5. Like, that is just the extension piece of The Boys. And, you know, on paper, that can go bad very quickly because the complaint, as soon as that happened, people are going to be like, oh, now it's going to turn to... Nope. It was incredible. It felt very much as The Boys did the entire run. And you're going to see why once you watch Gen V and then once you watch The Boys Season 4, which is going to come out hopefully next year.
Had some really solid character work.
Yeah. Arguably, if I'm to take a hot take, I think arguably better than some of The Boys' character work.
Yes. I found myself really engaged with every single person in that cast.
Mm-hmm. They're all relatable to some extent.
It's truly The Boys' version of, like, a young adult kind of story.
Yeah. And which is probably more realistic.
Yeah. So. It was really cool, man. It was really good. I was really surprised with how much I liked it. Because, you know, it's a wholly kind of original thing, too, for that universe. Obviously, you know, the comics but these are all wholly original kind of characters.
Yep.
And it goes to the larger point. I think we talked about this when we talked about the last season of The Boys, that it's one of the rare instances where the adaptation so far supersedes the source material. Yep. In terms of quality and depth and writing and characters, that, you know, obviously it's based on the comic, but it just eclipses the comic in so many ways. And Gen V's proof of that.
I think The Boys comics are the definition of being indulgent. So they had the idea, it was cool at first, and then they became very indulgent of itself.
Yeah.
And it was just doing the dirty, nasty, raunchy things to do the dirty, nasty, raunchy things. And then, you know, we get The Boys, and then we get into the later seasons of The Boys, and you're like, oh, there's actually something here. Like, there's actually something being made here. And I think Gen V doubles down on that very fact because they're not tethered to anything. You know, you have characters and ideas that you're still pulling from. But this show is important. You do need to watch this before you watch The Boys Season 4. Yeah,
definitely. And then, I mean, you know, just in the gaming sphere, we had a couple just pretty monumental releases. First, Spider-Man 2.
Which we will be doing.
We'll do it,
yes, because that one was it was number one on my list. I know. Was it number one on your list too, or was it Final Fantasy 16?
For the year, It was probably Final Fantasy 16, and then this, and then Spider-Man 2.
I mean,
for sure.
We're who we are. So,
Yeah.
This obviously was...
But this was amazing. Spider-Man 2 was incredible.
I see what you did there. No, this game was everything you wanted it to be and then some. I mean, maybe, to get any negatives out of the way, maybe some story beats. I think the story balance is a little off. I think it's lopsided. Yes. And once you play the game, that second half is... Yeah. It's like riding a bullet train.
I've been saying this to everybody who are either playing it or started playing it, and they're like, hey, man... The first bit of this is a little slow. And I agree with that. The first bit of it is very retready, very familiar. Obviously the traversal is much improved. It's really cool being able to switch between the two characters. But then there's a specific story moment that happens about, like you said, about halfway through, where that story moment happens, and it's not the one you're thinking of if you're out there. I know you think you know what it is, but it's not. There's a specific story moment that happens, and then that moment happens, and the game does not let up.
It's like
until the game ends.
Ignition.
It's crazy.
It's nuts. And you remember when I was playing, and I texted you, and I was like, "Whoa, it's getting crazy." You're like, "Oh, you're about to."
I told you it's not going to let go. It's not going to let go, and it doesn't. It's crazy what they were able to pull off. And obviously. We'll talk about this in a couple of weeks with the Game Awards coming. That just a generational year with gaming, and just big releases that we didn't talk about while we were gone. So we had Spider-Man 2, we had Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, which
a lot of people
resurrected Cyberpunk from the dead.
Shout out Idris Elba.
Just an incredible turnaround for that team at CD Projekt Red. That Cyberpunk. I mean, if you were around for the Cyberpunk apocalypse when that game first dropped, it got taken off of PlayStation Store. People were issued refunds. That game got really dark really quickly. Then they released Phantom Liberty. They released a 2.0 update along with that to Cyberpunk 2077 that basically reinvented the game from the ground up. I haven't gotten around to playing it yet. I started it, but then a bunch of other things. And yeah, it feels way different. So I'm excited to jump back. Baldur's Gate 3 came out to just universal acclaim, and it's likely going to be Game of the Year this year. Alan Wake 2 came out just a couple weeks ago. Mortal Kombat 1 came out a couple weeks ago. So even with the span of the last couple months, this 2023 year in gaming is just... Liza P came out, which is the Pinocchio Souls-like. That sounds silly, but for all intents and purposes is really great. And yeah, man, just an incredible year. Incredible year just for media, I guess.
Yeah, like an absolutely, top heavy year of just these really incredible things. But one thing that I'll definitely call out is if this makes sense, the quality of the art and products that we've been getting have been much more rounded out than other years. Obviously, you have your Fast X's this year, stuff like that. You have the Mag, like whatever. But like, what I look for this is I look at like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, like something like that, right there. Like, something that very much could have just been this thing that a studio just needs to get out because it's the IP, but then you get some creators that are like, oh, no, we actually are going to care about this thing, and we're going to give it style, we're going to give it emotion, we're going to give it all these things. I feel like there's so many projects this year that have had that same energy and kept... Across the Spider-Verse is a perfect example. Yeah. I mean, Oppenheimer was already going to be Oppenheimer, but Barbie on the other side of the coin could have went very wrong, as we keep saying. There's just so many... The Creator is a great example of, like, it could have just been the sci-fi movie, but no, it's this, it's this very human story. We have so many things, and it just makes me feel good about what movie making could be.
Yeah.
But I guess the perfect transition point into our next segue is...
Hey, you beat me to it.
What is the top dog in Hollywood? Any way you want to slice it, it is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So there was an article that was released about 2 weeks ago.
As we've said on this podcast, something that I deem the greatest cinematic achievement in the history of movies is this Marvel Cinematic Universe, because it's unprecedented. And, it's a testament to the quality of this Marvel machine that 30 some odd projects in, we're finally at this point. So this Variety article came out and ignited the internet. Essentially, whoever this inside source is at Marvel, basically detailing, everything going on inside that Marvel machine, and a degree of, maybe not panic, whatever the stage before panic is kind of where we're at.
What I think happened was we were at this place, right, where we don't know what's going on. I mean, like, humans ourselves are like, if we don't know what's going on, there's a level of fear that comes, either fear, anxiety, or anger that come with that. Like, we want to know what's going on. So, again, like I said when we talked about the Marvels when we did that review, I was somebody that grew up with this thing. Like, I physically grew up with this Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's literally encoded into me. Like, I couldn't help it. That was the thing that I used to literally twice to 3 times a year. You're going to the movie theater's packed. It's this event every single time. It's this interconnected story, right? So now, when everybody's brains are developed and everybody understands more about movies, movie making process, all these things, and you get to this point where we don't know what's going on, we don't know the direction of what's going on, there's a lot of, behind the scenes stuff, and now where we are in 2023, we're in the leak culture now. We didn't have that in the Infinity Saga. We have that. That's people's jobs, is the leak culture. That's it. Leaking information, making sure you need to be the first one to talk about castings. You know what that takes away from? The actual projects that you're making. Like, there's no mystique behind what's going on for any of these projects anymore. Nope. And I feel like I said this for Doctor Strange, because I said the biggest thing that I couldn't get out of my head, I felt like I saw the movie before I saw the movie. And I keep feeling that every single time I see an MC or see any fandom movie, I feel like I see the movie before I see it. And maybe it's my fault because I can't help myself, but I just keep feeling this way of, like, I can't get out of this mode of, like, everything's getting spoiled, because that's the thing that keeps these YouTube channels alive. That's the thing that keeps these, these leakers afloat. And that's all their content is right there. And then people formulate their opinions before the project even comes out.
Doctor Strange has kind of fell victim to this, right? A lot of people's criticisms of it is it was not the movie that they were expecting. And I'm like, but what were you expecting exactly? Were you expecting, like, just Cameo Fest 2022? Like, is that what was, that's the expectation? Because, and we've said this when we talked about Doctor Strange, was, what's the weakest part of that movie?
It's the Illuminati section.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't fit. It's not in the right spot. So this Variety article just comes out of nowhere, and it felt like Twitter just exploded. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, I remember I woke up and, like, this article was there, and everybody was freaking out all day. So 1A, Jonathan Majors, that was 1A. The whole report was that A, they weren't going to be able to move on after Jonathan Majors after Loki season 2, and B, they have to get rid of him. Like, but you can't. Like, you can't. Should we do Kang Dynasty? And, now we found out yesterday that it's very much looking like Kang Dynasty is not going to be made anymore. So. Yeah,
because, one of the things yesterday is Daniel Justin Cretton is no longer working on if it's not Kang Dynasty anymore, he's no longer working on this Avengers film.
Right.
He's now shifting focus to Shang-Chi 2.
Which makes way more sense.
And he's also going to be associated with Wonder Man, which, we both like Shang-Chi. So if him getting off of this project leads to kind of Shang-Chi 2 being expedited, I think that's great. Because I think one of the other problems that Marvel's running to is just this vast distance between when we're seeing characters.
And again, the big thing that was helping the Infinity Saga were these Avengers movies. These were the movies where, one thing that we're probably going to talk about is who are the main characters right now. And we have a theory on who it should be. There it's who it should be, and then we have a theory on who we think it should be to save, the point that there is no main characters right now. And the fact that you did set yourself up to have main characters, but you just will not use them. You won't. And obviously we just had a major strike. So obviously we should have seen a trailer for Captain America 4 we should have seen all these people by now, but we haven't.
Well, on the Captain America front, that's another issue, is that movie is apparently just being redone.
Yes. Now, we're not going to dive into this, but we know there is a conflict going on right now in a different part of the world. And I do think that's why that movie's being redone. I do think there were elements of something in that movie, and they needed to quickly remove those elements of that movie from there.
Yes.
Now, do I think that they're going to replace it with what a big fear of mine is, and that's Cameo City? I do have a sneaking suspicion they might. And the Marvels actually helped me expedite that theory that they're going to start to do some of those things. Getting into that point of different characters. So Blade, Mahershala Ali's Blade movie was an absolute nightmare. So I want to preface this too. I do think that article was lying about some things to get some more clicks. I do think that some of those things were untrue.
There are certain elements of it, particularly the Blade piece.
And the Loki piece.
Yep. And the Nia DaCosta piece. Like, she caught kind of a stray in this too. Turned out to be a big nothing. False. So that paired with, I've seen a couple Variety articles since that have really hammered the Marvels. So in retrospect, this original Variety article does read a little hit PC in certain aspects. So take that with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. The media is certainly not the Bible or any version of the Bible. So go on about Blade.
So apparently this movie, according to the article, this movie was a mess. Mahershala Ali was the fourth main character in the movie about himself, which is a mistake. Now this movie has a completely new team. It's been redone from the ground up. And the biggest thing was Mahershala Ali was ready to leave. He was so frustrated where he was done. You made the big deal at the 2019 Comic-Con after Avengers Endgame. Like, this is one of our focal points, is like this, it was going to probably culminate, which it still probably will, in this Midnight Suns realm of the MCU. But, Mahershala Ali was a twice over Oscar winner that we just got to play one of the probably coolest MCU character, like that niche, really cool MCU character that a lot of people would have. And that was an R-rated thing that you were doing. And you just couldn't get it to work. That just screamed a lot of things to me, which I guess goes into the bigger point where, what is going on? What is the direction? Which way are we going?
We're going in a direction of we're reinventing, certainly, because to pair that, Blade is being redone from the ground up. Not only that, but a much, much lower budget.
Yep.
I think it's going to be around $107 million.
Yep. Versus what was the original one? I think was,
it's probably in the same realm as all these other ones.
Probably 200 plus.
Yeah. Which doesn't need to be.
No, and I mean, you think about movies like The Creator, and that's why I said, that's why a movie like that, I always say this too, Greg Fraser is a cinematographer, but what he's doing just screams correct. He is this, in my opinion, he's going to turn into the new age Roger Deakins, where he's going to be like the philosophic guy to go to for, my age of movie makers. But he's worked on The Batman. He's worked on Rogue One. Obviously, Rogue One's budget was the biggest, but the Batman's budget was for not only a comic book movie, for a movie about Batman being that low of a budget and what he ate in. So in the same 4-month span, right? What did we get? Because the Batman was in 2021, right? We got, or 2022 in March. Yeah. We got the Batman, and then what Marvel movie came out in that time? We got Shang-Chi around there. Like, we got some other stuff in 2022. Doctor Strange would have came out. The Eternals would have came out before. And it's funny. The Eternals actually looks really good for an MCU movie. The Batman just looks incredible. Like, to the point where not only do I think it's a travesty that it wasn't nominated for Best Cinematography, it was the best shot movie of 2022. It was the best looking movie of 2022. Yeah. So he's dealing with all these lower budgets. But look at what we're getting, because that's an artist-based thought process. So we're going to talk about the Fantastic Four in a little bit. But I just think the MCU needs to move into this realm where they need to understand we actually need to make, quote unquote, we need to start making films. Like, we need to actually start making movies with intent and with actual filmmakers. That's why I'm such a big fan of the Eternals, because for what Chloe, you can tell she maybe had one hand tied behind her back. I don't know what the truth is on any of that, but for what I can tell was Chloe Zhao, it looked great and it felt great and it felt like an actual movie, which I appreciate, and I want more of that. Yeah.
And the Eternals, part of the Marvel kind of redux is that Eternals is apparently going to be getting a sequel. Richard Madden will be coming back as Icarus.
Which I hope he's probably going to be a good version of Icarus this time. Back to the Jonathan Majors thing, just because I just saw a bit on Twitter just now that apparently Marvel is not going to be moving away from Kang, but maybe moving away from Jonathan Majors. So potentially they are going to try and figure out possibly a recasting situation, and what I would imagine is that they're still probably not going to go ahead with Kang Dynasty. Yeah, I think I think at this point, you completely, not completely pivot. You can still do your idea, and maybe at the end of this we talk about what the idea is for, what Secret Wars should look like, or what they should just look like from now until it's seeming like it's probably going to be 2030 by the end of the multiversal saga. But what you should pivot towards. So no, I think if that is the choice, so be it. Just put your foot in the sand and make it the choice. I think that's what the big issue too is. I feel like they're being too passive at this point, where you can't be, especially the way that movies are evolving at this point.
And there's so much output.
Exactly.
Like there's too much output for it to not be going anywhere. Essentially, like they're building to a lot of things, but now I think we're at the point now where we need to start seeing the culmination of a couple of these things.
Yep.
And it's just not there yet. And I think the returns are what they're going to be. Like, the Marvels is going to go down as probably the biggest box office flop that the MCU's ever had. Thor: Love and Thunder underperformed. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania did well, but that's because I think Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania caught the tail end of, like, always going to see the Marvel thing.
And also, not only was it the tail end of going to see the Marvel thing, the whole conceit was like, this is phase 5, this is the recovery phase, and also we were at the height of Jonathan Majors' ascent into being the most famous actor on the planet. So it was like a perfect storm of everything going right for that movie to work. And again, to one of our big points of these movies need to start feeling like films, like a movie like that just feels like a product of something. It feels like I needed to do this thing. The studio needed to do this thing to check a box and then just be done with it.
But I will say, to coincide with another trailer that we got that we didn't talk about, Echo got a trailer under a new kind of subdivision of Marvel Studios, which is Marvel Spotlight. Which is going to be these kind of not out of continuity, but no real ties to the greater Marvel continuity. And they're going to be darker, kind of grittier. Echo is going to be R-rated, or TVMA, because it's a TV show. And there's going to be several shows that are going to fall under this banner. Wonder Man is going to fall under this Marvel Spotlight banner.
That was definitely a retroactive thought for them.
The totally stripped down to the bones and rebuilt Daredevil Born Again is also going to fall under this Marvel Spotlight banner.
Let's talk about Daredevil Born Again, because I think that's a huge eye opener.
Yeah. So
in this article, one of the things that were called out were apparently Marvel was not using showrunners this whole time for any of these shows. And you know how I didn't think about it, and then I did think about it? I thought about it because I thought about Miss Marvel the other day, and I was like, I remember the 2 directors and the ones that ended up making Batgirl, which released Batgirl. Like, I don't know why we're holding a movie that's done hostage, but that's an argument for a different day. But I was like, were they using directors as like not as their showrunners, but as like the face of the thing?
Yeah.
I think that's exactly like, we're getting these 2 directors, they're going to do the first 2 episodes of Miss Marvel. We're going to get this director, they're going to do the first episode of Secret Invasion.
Well, do you remember the first episode of Miss Marvel?
Feels night and day. Let's just take episode, what is it, 3, I think?
Yeah.
Night and day. Those do not feel like the same. The only thing that feels the same is Aman Vellani's great. That's the only thing that feels the same. Those are not the same show, and you can tell. Yeah. Let's just look at The Last of Us. The Last of Us feels like the same show from episode 1 to 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every single one of those shows. You know who actually might be the biggest offender of that? It might be Moon Knight might be the biggest offender of that. Of a very stylized choice that they made, a very narrative stylized choice, and setting choice, all those things. And then once it hits the very middle, we talked about this. The structure's weird. It feels like it feels like a product. Once it hits the middle, it feels like a thing that just needs to be done. Yep. Like it's like doing your homework. Like, this needs to just get submitted at some point. Yep. So I think that was the sell of like, hey, this director's going to do the first episode. Cool. And then the shows just start meandering in the middle. I'm trying to... every single show has hit that. Maybe outside of WandaVision's been the only one. But how long was WandaVision? WandaVision was 9 episodes. Outside of that, I think every single show has hit that same problem. Falcon and the Winter Soldier hit that middle part where, that middle low. Loki's the only other one where even outside of WandaVision, Loki, I don't think applies to any of this. And honestly, I also, maybe I'm being wrong, I do think Loki season 1 episode 3 hits the Lamentus one. I do think it does hit that just a little bit. It doesn't meander the same way as the other shows, but
Loki always felt as this outlier that for whatever reason felt more important to everybody than everything else.
Right. It's funny, that was the show I was the least excited for. I said I don't understand.
There's something about that show where it just feels like everyone involved just knows it's more important than everything else, so that always felt to me like it got more care and attention in terms of literally everything.
Yeah, I mean, you think about production value, score, like everything about that show feels like an actual show. And in season 2 quadruples down on that whole fact.
Yeah, so then we got to Daredevil, right? And there were 6 episodes done, and I guess the conceit was Matt Murdock does not appear in the Daredevil costume until that 6th episode. It was more legal drama, I guess is the better word, and they just scrapped it. So it's done, and they have now an official showrunner, Dario Scarjapane, who has worked on The Punisher, worked on Jack Ryan for Amazon, and he will be joining Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, who have a pair of directors who have been gaining a ton of traction in the last couple weeks, obviously coming off the Loki finale in which they directed, and 2 gentlemen who have expressed interest in potentially directing an Avengers movie. Yep. I don't think them saying that and then Daniel Dustin Cretton leaving Kang Dynasty comes with any non-coincidence.
Yep. Thought the same thing.
So I would not be surprised if that ends up happening. But yeah, so now we have an official showrunner for Daredevil Born Again. They're basically starting from scratch. They've Benson and Moorhead have said in the last couple weeks they've been consuming all of the Daredevil content that they can get their hands on.
I've also been reading some Daredevil comics the last couple. Ships the Dark Seas run its money.
So maybe this whole thing has been kind of the wake-up call that Marvel's needed for some time. That's what it feels like. They moved a ton of things around. Release date wise, they obviously have done this Marvel Spotlight rebrand. I was really impressed with the Echo trailer.
It was unexpected. I was not expecting that. A guy gets shot in the face in that trailer. I was just not expecting.
And that whole thing's coming out in one day.
Yeah, which that's another argument that, maybe that's an idea. Maybe you start doing that more. Maybe you
do the Netflix thing,
The Netflix thing, release everything in one day, let people consume it at their own pace, I think is important. Because again, to my whole point about that thing where I feel like I see the things before they happen, I can't get that if the whole thing's released on the same day. I can watch it at my own pace.
Yeah, that's coming out all in one day. What If is going to be coming out daily.
Yeah.
When that comes
it's
out.
like the week, which is pretty cool, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So, there's some promise, there's some hope. I mean...
But at the same time, there's also cause for concern.
Sure. And I mean, I'm going to give you 3 points. Point number 1 was my film point. Like, we need to treat these, like, with some quality. I mean, Guardians 3 and Black Panther 2 were, like, the ones where, and Loki as a whole, but specifically Loki season 2, where I was like, I can tell somebody's handling this with tender love and care. Like, somebody has this whole thing, and this is their baby right now. And, like, this is, it needs to be treated like, these people that are like, spent years in film school doing all these things, like making these projects, locking themselves in rooms, writing that. Those are the people that feel like they're making these things. And then you turn around on the other side of the coin, and then you see stuff like Secret Invasion. You see stuff like Quantum Mania, and you're like, who's making, like, why is there so much, disparage between what the quality is in these projects? Like, why is it so different? So yeah, I think it needs the quality boost, and I mean, I think the quality boost, in my opinion, take a book out of the Batman. It doesn't need to be that, you're using old cinema. You don't need to do any of that insane stuff, but you need to try to treat these like actual films. I think that's number 1.
And space it out.
Space it out. That's actually number 2. You need a little bit of time. I think one of the big selling points of the Infinity Saga was, like I said, twice to 3 times a year, we were going to that theater.
It was an event.
Was like Super Bowl Sunday when we were in there.
Yeah.
Like, especially, we said that 2014 to 2019 run was absurd. Like, you're seeing the same people sometime at the movies. Like, you're seeing your friends, or like, it's just, and the theater's packed every single time. Like, there's no leak culture, and I think, again, to my point, I think that leak culture really has hurt that whole going to see the movie on the opening night. Like, it's hurt it a little bit, because like I said, I feel like I see these movies before they come out. But yeah, we need some space, we need some time. If treat the TV shows like actual TV shows. Don't treat them like mini movies. Have showrunners, have them be their own thing. Loki's doing that really well right now. It's its own thing. That's all it needs to be. And then the movies need quality. So that's 2, is we need some space. And number 1 is we need the Avengers. I think that's number 1. But seriously, number 1 is where are our main characters? Who are the main characters? Storytelling 101. You're probably following a main character on this journey. Who in the heck are we following right now? There's not one there is one, which we'll get to in a second. There's not one person of the heroes that I can think that, who are we following at this point? That Infinity Saga said, you have this guy named Steve Rogers, you have this guy named Tony Stark, you have this guy named Thor Odinson. Those are your main characters. Then you have your B-tier main characters this whole time. Those people are going to meet up every couple of years, beat a threat. There's this bigger threat out there. They're all going to come together and beat this. Simple. Nothing complicated about that. You had a very easy layup, in my opinion. You get this guy that's this absolutely outside of legal trouble. You get this guy that's this absolutely magnetic actor to play the villain. Cool. Who's going against this guy? Who are the people that we're going against? And, you keep it very simple. Where's Anthony Mackie been this whole time? Man went through, in my opinion, one of my favorite projects from the MCU. Favorite, not best. Favorite projects, which is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You went through that whole thing, and we talked about it. Phase 4, my themes for Phase 4 were loss and legacy. Those were the 2 things. So a lot of loss that we had to deal with, inside, outside, everything, but legacy. So many mantle. That's all Phase 4 was mantle passing. Where are these people we just passed the mantles to this whole time? Obviously it's Phase 5, but you go Hulk to She-Hulk, you go Steve to Sam. Like, you're doing all these things. You go T'Challa to Shuri. Where are they? Where's the Avengers? The Avengers are nowhere to be found in this whole thing.
Well, and I mean that ultimately speaks to what we were talking about when we talk about this kind of content, overload of things where, especially with like the post-credit scenes and everything, like back in my day, the post-credit scenes always bled.
I'm so glad you made that point, because I was just going to talk about that.
They always bled into the next project, more or less.
Yep.
For the most part. Some maybe they'll skip one, but I mean these post-credit scenes that we've been getting.
Let's talk about it for a second, because Let's start with this is how I actually did it the other day. I just thought about this.
I had a list. I don't remember where it went.
We are going to pull up we're on Disney Plus. We're going to pull up each show, and we're going to go to the post-credit scene of each show. Show and movie. WandaVision, paid off. So 1 for 1. Falcon and the Winter Soldier did not pay off because we haven't heard anything from the Bauer program. Now you're 1 for 2. Loki did not have a post-credit scene, does not count. Black Widow's post-credit scene paid off, so you're 2 for 3 at this point. Shang-Chi's post-credit scene did not pay off, so you're 3 for 5 at this point? Mm-hmm. Eternal's post-credit scene does not pay off, you're 4 for 6. You're 2 for 6. Hawkeye's post-credit scene is...
Just paid off.
Sort of. Not the whole thing. Sort of paid off. Moon Knight Moon Knight's post-credit scene has not paid off. Jake Lockley's not paid off. You're 2 for 7. Multiverse of Madness has not paid off with
Clea, yeah.
Yeah, with Clea, you're 2 for 8. Miss Marvel's post-credit scene
did not technically pay off yet.
Nope, not yet. So you're 2 for 9.
Because it was the what was Miss Marvel's post-credit scene?
Wasn't it what was the X-Men thing? Or the mutant
no,
thing?
it did pay off. It was the Marvels. It was her going through the closet door.
Oh, right.
And Brie Larson popping back up.
So you're 3 for 8 at this point. Thor: Love and Thunder, you're Hercules. You're 3 for 9.
That's years away.
Years away. Wakanda Forever. I have that one as it doesn't count.
Yeah. But they also set up the Midnight Angels thing too.
Oh, right. It hasn't paid off. So you're 3 for 10. Quantumania, the Council of Kangs.
That's probably never going to pay off.
So you're 3 for 11. Guardians 3, as again, that one does not count on this list.
Separate, yeah.
Because it's separate. It was a finale.
But it's also something that we may never get.
Right.
We may never get that again.
Right.
Because James Gunn,
Yeah, he's gone. My point being, all these
Eternals
hasn't paid off.
Thor:
Love and Thunder, Hercules has not paid off. Secret Invasion's post-credit scene, did they have a post-credit scene? I forget.
No.
Oh, well, the whole thing was
he went back to space.
He went back to space, and they were going to do what do you call it? The British team from the comics. What do you call them?
Oh, yeah.
The British Avengers. The Brit-Vengers.
But all that stuff is, years away.
Yeah.
Years away.
Yep.
Whereas, going back to Iron Man 1, obviously it was, we're teasing the Avengers, which is fine.
Yep.
Do that in the first ever movie, fine. But then from there on out...
Incredible Hulk ties right back into the movie you did right before. Iron Man 2's post-credit scene was Thor. The very next movie. Thor's post-credit scene was right into Captain America. Captain America's post-credit scene was just a trailer for the Avengers. That's fine.
But then you got the Avengers.
Right. Then you get the Avengers, right?
Thanos.
Yep, right at the end.
Which tells you... Which is a good post-credit scene to do for an Avengers movie, because that tells you what the big thing is.
Yeah, because they all needed each other to beat the threat, and the actual threat is much more dangerous than the threat that they needed to team up.
Because then we don't see Thanos again until the Age of Ultron post-credit scene.
But where do we see him? In an Avengers movie. Because that's an Avengers level, in the great words of Quentin Bennett, now that's an Avengers level threat. Iron Man 3's post-credit scene was fun. That was just... Doesn't count, again. Thor: The Dark World, and now we're ripping into the Infinity Saga. Thor: The Dark World's post-credit scene was the Reality Stone. Winter Soldier's post-credit scene was, if I'm not mistaken, it was Bucky coming back. It was Bucky, and then leads right into Civil War. Guardians of the Galaxy's post-credit scene.
The first one?
The first one?
I don't remember.
That was 9 years ago.
I know.
Insane.
There's a lot of these I don't remember.
Why can't I remember what the post... it was just Groot dancing, I guess. It doesn't count. Age of Ultron's post-credit scene, obviously.
I'll do it myself.
Yeah, I'll do it myself.
And everyone went, ooh.
Ant-Man's was... They go and get... They're like, I know a guy. Immediately into the next movie. Civil War's post-credit... and then also... Oh, my bad. Winter Soldier was Wanda and Pietro.
Yeah.
Right into the next movie. I don't think I need to go on. But do you understand our point?
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Every single one led into the very next thing or adjacent, maybe 2, max 3 movies later.
Or if it was an Avengers movie, it just kind of let you know, Thanos is still around.
Exactly. It's so simple, but it's so
Whereas
effective.
these ones are just, all over the place.
We're just having fun at this point.
Well, they're getting too inside baseball.
Yep.
That's essentially what they're doing.
Like, Hercules one should have been one. You could pay that off pretty decently.
Yeah, but they're not going to.
They're not going to. And, you're also getting, these figures or actors that are pretty big. Like, you're getting Brett Goldstein right off the height of Ted Lasso, and genius to have him play Hercules. I love my plot for Thor 5, though, that they punch for a bit, but then you find out Hercules is in love with Thor. That's a plot.
I mean, what they're doing is they're no longer tying the post-credit scene into, like, what's next. They're just tying the post-credit scene like, hey, here's this cool thing from this character's lore.
Here's this character you're the character from Marvel Comics that
like
we might have heard about.
Thor 1's post-credit scene did not tease Thor the Dark World.
No. Thor 1's post-credit scene said, well, now let's take a look. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's very simple. It's nothing too incredibly difficult. So
yeah, so they gotta fix that. Yeah. They gotta straighten that out.
Right. But again, to our main point, where's the Avengers? I feel like Peter Parker and Far From Home. Where are the Avengers? Like, who's gonna save us now? Like,
and we're not getting. I mean, there's one movie on the slate for next year, which I think is great. First of all. But it's Deadpool.
And it might be the most important movie that they do up into Secret Wars.
And it's going to make $1 billion.
I said the same thing. That movie is going to make every cent that you can think of. Like, it's going to make a stupid amount of money.
But good. Yep. Good that's the only movie coming out next year. Mm-hmm. Good.
And that movie has an incredible amount of heavy lifting to do on top of that, too.
And it'll do it.
I
think.
And we talked about this, off this, but the fact that we could have also done this in like an Avengers movie, right? Where we get the Fox X-Men, all the rights, everything. The fact that this is a Deadpool movie makes the most sense because they're not going to take this seriously, which I think might help a little bit for because people are going to try to use logic. Doesn't matter. It's stupid. Doesn't matter. Like, I know Famke Janssen, Jean Grey. We're going to get James Marsden, Cyclops. We're going to get Hal. They're all going to come back. Spoiler alert for the Marvels. This is your chance to get out of here before I spoil the heck out of the Marvels. Beast returns. Kelsey Grammer's Beast. We're going to get all of them back. We're going to get the prime versions of them back. That's all cool. I just like the fact that it's going to be in Deadpool and not in like an Avengers X-Men movie or something like that.
However.
Right.
With this Kang Dynasty thing.
I have a plan.
Yeah.
Yep, I have a plan.
Yeah.
This is a shameless plug to the Marvels review, but instead of Kang Dynasty, how I think you should rework this is you should mix elements of the first Secret Wars, I forget if it's 84, I think it's 86, but Secret Wars 86, the Beyonder, go get the Beyonder, maybe just have the Beyonder be the Beyonder. Maybe you just go get a popular actor and just, instead of doing the Kang Beyonder, which I think was the rumored plan, you just have the Beyonder just be the Beyonder. And he just gets the X-Men from our childhood, and then he gets the Avengers from our second childhood, and he just Avengers versus X-Men. And you just have that happen, and that's it. You just have an Avengers versus X-Men movie. You try to figure out all the multiversal crap, and then maybe at the end of the movie, that's when the incursions start happening, all the Earths start dying.
Because at this point, if you're Marvel, you can't take for granted any longer that the general audience is just going to be with you through this whole thing.
No, because they've turned on you extreme. Because the big thing now is we're back. It's like, it's fun. Yeah. Like, it's either the Marvel's dead or we're back.
Yeah.
Like, Guardians 3 was the we're back, and then it went right into Secret Invasion, and Marvel's done.
Yeah.
So
now, if I'm them, and I'm going to do another Avengers movie, I'm just going to go for it. Mm-hmm. Just going to go for it.
Just think about how absurd it would be if... Because obviously, one of the big rumors is that everybody's going to come back. Obviously. Obviously, everybody's coming back, but... Just think about if Chris Evans is fighting Chris Evans in this movie. Like, how absurd would that be? Yeah. Like, and I think Deadpool 3 is going to be the litmus test for this whole thing. Like, how far could you go? Like, what's the rubber band stretch until it snaps?
Pretty far.
Pretty far, I think. Methinks it goes pretty far. I think you can do a lot of things. So if you're going to do it, and you made this big stink about getting all the rights back, go for it. Just absolutely go for it.
Yeah, you got to take a swing, because at this point you can't rely on being like, hey, I know you're waiting for this really cool thing to happen, but just give us like 5 or 6 years and enjoy all this kind of like meh content in between. But we promise in like 6 years we're gonna blow your balls off.
They do need to hurry up a little bit, because I'm just afraid for some of the X-Men actors, specifically Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart.
Yeah,
because they're no spring chickens anymore. That's just me being real. Like they just need to hurry up a little bit.
So just go for this next Avengers movie. Just go for it.
This is off topic, but you know who I think should just play the MCU? Patrick Stewart, the MCU Professor X and Magneto. I just think you get Michael Fassbender and you get
James
McAvoy. Like, would you not? Like, I feel like that.
Yeah.
I was watching Days of Future Past 2 days ago, and Michael Fassbender that might be in my top 3 favorite comic book castings ever.
He's so good.
It's absurd how good he is at playing Magneto. Like, that is one of the most synonymous ones, in my opinion, that there's been.
Yeah.
And he had to succeed one of the greatest ones
Yeah.
before that too. They feel so seamless. No, they actually don't, which I really like, because he just became a sassy grandpa at the end, which I really appreciate. He's just especially in X2, like him and Mystique are just gossiping. It's hilarious.
So next year's Marvel slate looks like this. X-Men 97 is apparently coming out.
I have a thought on that too, and it's more spoilers for the Marvels.
Echo, Deadpool 3, Agatha, whatever title it's going to be.
Do you think they're doing that on purpose? I had this thought.
They must be, right?
I think it's on purpose.
Because the title keeps changing. And then Spider-Man Freshman Year is also supposed to come out next year. And that's it. So 3 live action things next year.
But name the 3 live action things again.
Echo, Deadpool 3, and Agatha, whatever the title is.
Now, there's an imposter among us. But I mean, in all seriousness, I mean, this is a glaring piece. And I absolutely hate to be this person, because, you know, as somebody that also wants to do this, like, some of these people that are working on these shows, let's just take Agatha, like, those people could have been waiting their whole lives to get an opportunity to do anything in the vicinity of that realm.
Yeah.
Is that the thing we need right now in the MCU? Is like, no. Not at this point. Not where the tides are turning against you, where the people are turning against you.
Like, and again, to our point, like, when did WandaVision came out in 2020? 2019?
2020.
So we're talking 4 years between WandaVision and the next WandaVision adjacent thing. Yeah. If you don't count Multiverse of Madness. Right. But, like, that's the last time we've seen Agatha Harkness was in WandaVision. Like, 4 years later, is anybody gonna care?
Again, like, I love Catherine Hahn, but has the mystique of Agatha worn off? I think it has. And again, that's a testament to the Infinity Saga. Like, it never lets the mystique of something wear off, because it paid it off immediately.
And the Infinity Saga things were never reactionary, whereas I feel this kind of was. Mm-hmm. Where, like, she was so good.
Yeah.
In WandaVision.
She just was good because Catherine Hahn is incredible.
She was so good, and the song won a Grammy.
But again...
And then they were like...
Exactly.
They did the Black Panther from Infinity War. They're like, get that man a shield.
Exactly.
Get that woman a TV show. When we didn't need it.
That's about. That's not how that works.
She deserves it.
Sure.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
But,
Yes, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Do a thing, like a Werewolf by Night thing with Agatha Harkness.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I thought about that too. Why are we not utilizing that more?
I don't know.
A 50-minute just one shot of... So in comics, there's these things called one-shots. Do that. Literally do that. I always have my one-shot idea. Let's just take Isaiah Bradley, for example. I said... release it in Black History Month, bring in Sebastian Stan. The mission that he talked about where he took off half of his arm in Goyang, do that very thing and do it in like 45 minutes. All it is a one shot of him trying to save those soldiers. Sebastian Stan shows up, they fight for a bit, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you do, that's it. That's all you have to do. And then we don't need a 6-episode TV show about Isaiah Bradley.
And you know how you frame it? You frame it as Isaiah Bradley narrating, and then at the end, you see that he's telling it to Elijah, and there's your Young Avengers tie-in. You're welcome, Marvel.
Yeah, because Elijah's probably like, why am I super strong? This doesn't make a lot of sense.
There you go. You're welcome. I fixed it.
Agatha, 45-minute, like I said, your one shot, and label it Marvel one shots. You can put it in the app, in the Disney Plus app, Marvel one shots. That's all you're doing. Werewolf by Night was such a revelation for those, and I'm so surprised they haven't beaten that drum just over and over and over again.
Yeah, they've done 2 of them, and they were both good.
Yeah. Isn't that insane?
They did Werewolf by Night, and they did the Guardians Holiday Special. Both of them were really good. So, man. And then, the big thing that literally happened yesterday ties into all of this, which is the Fantastic Four. So, it happened. Well, it pretty much happened.
No, because Adam Driver and Margot Robbie were like, quote unquote, locked into those roles. What was that, 2 months ago?
Yeah.
Whatever it was, like they were like locked in. Like we for sure knew they were going to be the Reed and Sue.
Yeah.
And then it just fell right through.
Fell apart. But this is pretty much as close to done, I guess, as these things can get. So we have our Reed Richards. It is Zaddy himself.
Insane.
Pedro Pascal.
Crazy.
This guy just, I don't know. Is he just going to be a billionaire by the time this is all said and done?
He might be.
Yeah, Pedro Pascal is apparently going to be Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four, which is slated for release in May of 2025.
That's going to come way faster than we anticipate, too.
This just across the wire. Marvel Studios reportedly has met with Mads Mikkelsen for the role of Doctor Doom.
I love it. You know what I would like? If it's still Caecilius, but he just, took over he didn't actually die.
Well, did you see the thing that they offered the Reed Richards role to Gyllenhaal?
I did.
So they just don't care.
Or unless that article was fake about the whole Gyllenhaal thing, I do think I saw that and I was like, I actually kind of like Jake Gyllenhaal as Reed because I play him as like the Reed that's a horrible father that just hates everybody and then just like wants to be with different versions of himself, like Hickman's Reed.
Yeah, so
I think Driver plays that well too.
So they just don't care.
I told you yesterday. I said that they probably went, why is Pedro Pascal not in the MCU? He's in everything else, and he's the most famous actor in the world. And then they said, and then they were in the room. And they were like at the dartboard, like throwing darts at different characters. And they were like, somebody goes, "We can't make him Reed Richards, right?" And they started laughing. And then they were laughing so hard that the phone got picked up. And then they called Pedro Pascal. And they're like, "Do you want to just be the most important character?" And then he's like, "Yeah." And then it happened.
And then the other members of the Fantastic Four are 3 actors that have been rumored for quite some time that I guess are, again, as close to locks as you can get. So Vanessa Kirby as Sue Storm.
I love it.
That's amazing. I'm in. I'm good. Joseph Quinn, obviously of Stranger Things fame, as Johnny Storm.
Don't love it as much.
I'll give him a shot. And then Eben Moss Bachrach as Ben Grimm.
That might be by far my favorite one.
It's pretty good.
He is just such an angry, grumpy person. That's perfect Ben Grimm.
And then, a couple other things about this. There were a lot of... Apparently, the rumor mill was that a lot of these higher A-list male actors that were pursued for Reed Richards turned down the role because this Fantastic Four movie might be a Sue Storm POV-led kind of Fantastic Four movie.
I don't know about that. I just think the Fantastic Four run better when Reed is the main character. Not the fact
That's because you're a sexist.
No, whoa. Everybody relax. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
Weren't we just praising Barbie for how formative it was? And
no, I was praising Barbie for how formative it was.
This is crazy. Don't do this. We can't have this. No shot. Oh, man.
right, go ahead. Go ahead with your point about why this needs to be a male POV-led movie. Go ahead.
No. That's why I didn't say the thing about Blade, because I said he was the fourth main character.
Yeah.
The three main other characters were apparently women, which is fine. Which, I mean, it's good. Maybe not in a Blade movie. You know, when the movie's name is Blade, maybe you have Blade be the main character. That's just what I was thinking. Just a thought. But
okay, go ahead.
This is bad.
Talk about Reed Richards some more.
So,
and why he's so damn important.
Because he is. He's the smartest man alive.
Yeah?
Somebody didn't watch Multiverse of Madness?
Smartest man alive would have gotten out of there.
Smartest man alive for like 15 more minutes.
Smartest man alive so far.
So far.
Anyway.
Yeah, anyway. When Reed is the main character, I mean, Secret War, like the Hickman Secret Wars plays is, though it's a culmination of the Fantastic Four run all the way to, it's him and Doom are the main characters of that whole thing. Like, that's the whole point of, like, they're the two actual main characters of this thing.
Which, could they be pivoting back towards that?
I have a feeling that's what the plan, because you don't just get Pedro Pascal to play him and just be like, well, you know, we can just make these movies. Like,
Tobey Maguire is going to be the main character of Secret Wars. We didn't even touch that bit.
Oh, yeah, that it's going to be... Well, can I tell you what I think the plan for Kang Dynasty should be if they keep it? And this goes to our point of who the main character of this whole thing should be. Who should the main character be?
Loki.
It should be Loki. Spoilers for Loki. You know, get out now. And the reason I said that is because Loki can't get out now because he's literally holding the multiverse in his hands. Which is insane to, like... I was explaining this to somebody, like, the version of you know, some of the... Not even an ink... Like, Thor is not even a fraction of the most powerful version of Thor that we could see out of Chris Hemsworth at some point. We finally saw the most powerful version of what Loki turned into, and it's somebody that had the power to reinvigorate life back into all the timelines, which I didn't even know was a thing. Like, insanity. Like... Scarlet Witch looks like an ant to a boot, you know? So, yeah. So he's, in the end of Loki Season 2, he's physically holding, you know, he's Atlas now. He's holding the multiverse. He has his throne, but at what cost does he have his throne? Made the noble sacrifice. Loki's a good guy now. So here's the plot to Kang Dynasty, right? So, Kang War happens. It's all happening. They're all fighting. They're all boxing. They're all mean to each other. It's like a daycare.
The one version of him that's a boxer shows up.
Yeah.
From Creed 3.
Spent my entire life in a cell. All right, never mind.
Much like Kang.
Much like Kang. But seriously, so what I think this plot should be is we finally see Kang Prime. Nathaniel Richards' Kang Prime. And this theory would lend to the version that we saw in Quantumania was not Kang Prime. Like, this is the actual 616...
Because he got beat up by ants.
Exactly. Like, this is the actual 616 Kang, like Nathaniel Richards from the 31st century, from our universe. So, he comes in, right? And he's like, well, I need one universe for myself to conquer, so you can miss me with everything else. Then he finds out who's holding all the timelines. He's like, well, why are all the timelines not dead? They should all be dead. He finds out Loki's the one that's holding the timelines. So the Avengers get wind of this through Doctor Strange, who finds out this thing. So their whole goal, Sam leading the charge is like the human character of them, but Sam, Thor, like all your characters come together like, well, we need to protect this person who's He Who Remains. They don't know who He Who Remains is. It's Loki. But they go, and the reunion of the millennia, Thor and Loki are back together. Thor sees Loki again. He's like, you know, I told you the sun would never, the sun would never set on us again. And that's it. You just have them go to try to save Loki. That would probably be it. Plays a lot like Guardians 3, where the whole plot of the movie is save Rocket. Whole plot of Kang Dynasty is Avengers keep Loki alive as long as you can. That's all you're doing. And that Kang just wants to kill Loki because if he lets go, all the multiverse is going to die if he lets go. And then the incursions are going to start happening. So what it's going to give you is that Loki-Thor reunion. You do the thing from Time Runs Out where Thor and Hyperion take on the Beyonders by themselves. Like, the most powerful version of Thor and Loki are just going crazy on a whole bunch of different versions of Kangs would be really cool. But then those Avengers fail. They fail to keep Loki alive. they're taken out by Kang, or they're at least wiped from existence, and then make sure Jeffrey Wright's actually the Watcher, and then he goes and gets the multiversal Avengers. That's what the post-credit scene is. Wesley Snipes is never doing it, but you get the X-Men, you get Tobey Maguire. That's what I guess the rumor is, that
he's not your friend.
Hands. That's how he did operate in those movies. But yeah, I just thought that would be a fun plot, especially it would lend to Loki season.
You gotta keep Loki in the fold, right? You have to. That ended up being the most important thing from the entire multiverse saga. Was this TV show was the most important thing that's happened so far. Or if it's not most important, it's certainly what people are most attached to.
Yep.
At this point, like emotionally.
Right. Yeah. I just think that's a fun plot where Kang Prime finally shows up. He's like, well, I'm going to end this multiversal war one way or the other. There's this, and all he knows is that there's this being out there that's just holding the multiverse alive, and then lo and behold, it's Loki. Pays back to the fact that he was the first Avengers villain, and now he's the one that's saving the Avengers, or trying to help save the Avengers at this point. Helps Sam get into a realm of way in over his head. He's like, how am I supposed to... I feel powerless. Like, I'm looking at Thor, I'm looking at Hulk, like, I'm looking at all these beings, and, like, I'm supposed to be the leader of all of them right now.
You gotta do better, Kang the Conqueror.
Maybe one of the Kangs is a senator.
Probably is.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I like that. That's a great idea. I think you have to absolutely, if you weren't planned to, you absolutely have to plan to have Loki be some type of integral part of the next Avengers movie. You have to. He's the only one in this entire thing so far. And Scott Lang already fought Kang, and it's still not him. Mm-hmm. Loki's the only one that has this adversarial, relationship with Kang in some form or fashion. Where, man, when He Who Remains, again, spoilers for season 2 of Loki.
Oh my gosh.
When he's like, how long have you been at this? And I love that they do that bit again, where, like, they have a conversation, but, like, this time He Who Remains talks to Loki like a peer.
And it's the juxtaposition of seeing Victor Timely, so, like, this super smart, and without Victor Timely, you wouldn't have the TVA handbook.
Yeah.
And then He Who Remains is just like, Victor Timely is nothing to me. He's just another version of inkling of what I am.
And how He Who Remains, like, speaks to Loki like, oh, you're on my level now.
Finally. And he's like, finally. Like, you finally... Like, we were going to have this conversation over and over. You finally got... Congrats. You're finally here.
You're on my level.
You made it to the big leagues. It's about time.
So, like, there it is. Mm-hmm. That's your conflict for Avengers. It's Loki and whatever version of Kang.
Because look at the sacrifice Loki had to make to stop this one... And again... What I love, he's just a guy. That's all Nathaniel Rich, he's just a person.
And you still didn't really stop him.
No, that's the whole point. You just delayed the inevitable, and that's the whole thing about the Hickman Secret Wars, is that's all the incursions are. The incursions are it's nature. It was bound to happen at some point.
So, at the end of the day, like, there's still stuff there to be excited for. I just think they need to cut the fat off. Mm-hmm. Cut the fat off a little bit.
For now.
Because you got to get people back on board. And the way you get people back on board is A, not oversaturating the market, and B, with quality. That's it. Those are the two. That's the recipe.
Get some main characters. We need some main characters.
And you have it.
And you do. They're there.
You have it.
Keep going.
Yeah.
You can't make people fall in love with you overnight.
Yeah, you got to rein it in a little bit. Stop trying to establish 55,000 different people at once, and just give us this core group of people who care about.
All I'm saying is maybe extend out the multiversal saga a little bit. Here's what you do: just give us an Avengers movie. Pick a storyline. You got a bunch to pick from. Pick a storyline. Avengers movie. Simple. Whatever you want to pick, that's it. Just pick one. Kree Skrull War, Dark Reign, whatever you want to do. You can't do Secret Invasion, which I think that's the one they should have done out of the gate. But pick an Avengers movie, make Sam and Captain Marvel your two leads, and just do it. Get Shuri in there. You have She-Hulk and Hulk, have Thor come back, Ant-Man, Wasp, Spider-Man. You have your Avengers movie. Cool. Good. Then you start to have the different, like we said, different version of Kang for each project. Moon Knight season 2, it should be Rama-Tut. Like, just keep having Kang. Like, now the variants are starting to expand, and they keep showing up in different places. Cool. Now we're committed to it, so now you got to start involving the X-Men into this somehow, and then it's going to come through Deadpool 3. Avengers versus X-Men. You split Secret Wars into 2 parts. You call the first one Secret Wars, and you call the last Avengers movie, because I think that would be the last Avengers movie. You call it Avengers Forever, and that's it. And then,
yeah, then you move on.
Daddy Pascal is gonna be Reed Richards. You'll have your brand new X-Men with these new faces of cinema out there. You'll have some fun. Who's playing Wolverine? Hand in the sand, I want it to be Zach. I just think Zac Efron would be an incredible Wolverine.
Who's to say? It's Hugh Jackman until further notice.
It is, yeah.
Because he's also in Deadpool, so...
Remember when we said we were going to talk about other stuff, and then we just talked about the MCU the whole time?
Yeah.
Look at us.
We talked about other stuff at the beginning.
Sure.
We got plenty of time to talk about other stuff.
Yeah, we're back.
Because we're back now. We're officially back.
We're back and better than ever.
Yeah. Sure.
Who's your Fantastic Four that you wanted? That'll be the last question.
I was keen on that Matt Smith, Vanessa Kirby, Paul Mescal, and then who was the Vengram one?
David Diggs.
Yes, that was the group I was hoping for.
I have 2 thought processes. I have you keep Krasinski and you just play it safe. So Krasinski, Emily Blunt, obviously. You get the kid from Outer Banks, the best friend from Outer Banks, and I always forget his name. And then you get Joel Egerton, because Joel Egerton's also a grumpy guy. I bet he's a wonderful person. He just plays like a grumpy guy. Or you get the Cinema Fantastic Four. This one was my fun one. It's the Driver, Margot Robbie one. You get 2 A-list actors. Paul Mescal, who's the oldest looking 27 years old I've ever seen. I love Paul Mescal to death.
Joseph Quinn, also an old looking 26-year-old.
It's crazy. I saw he was 26. I said, no shot, you're 26 years old. There's
he looked
no
like
way.
He was 22 in Stranger Things.
Well, I was like, no way. And then you get Jason Segel to play Ben Grimm. And then my dark horse one was, I did like the Penn Badgley, and it seemed for a while that Penn Badgley was going to play Reed Richards. Like that, to be honest, that was probably the most concrete one out of all of these was Penn Badgley.
Yeah.
And then you get Jodie Comer to play Sue, the David Diggs, and then you get Dacre Montgomery to play Johnny. That would have been a fun one. All of these versions include Cillian Murphy playing Doctor Doom, by the way. That's actually a non-negotiable.
Well, we got a Stranger Things guy to play Johnny Storm in the end. That's all we were after.
To my
I think he's fine. I think he's going to do fine. That guy set the world on fire when Stranger Things came out.
He did. I just think Dacre Montgomery plays, and the kid from Outer Banks, I think that's like my number 1A. Like, that kid screams Johnny Storm to me.
Yeah, I guess. Because I always have trouble being like, when people were like, this person got cast as this person, and then people were like, I don't see it. And I'm like, how do you know? Mm-hmm. You don't know until you actually see it. Right. That's why they're actors.
Yeah, Robert Pattinson got cast as Batman, and you thought the world ended.
Like, yeah, people were like, nah, absolutely not.
And then,
like, he doesn't look like Bruce Wayne.
And then after the movie came out, he's just like, that's me.
They're like, oh shoot, he's actually Batman,
or he's actually me. That's actually exactly how I act on a daily basis.
Yeah, so it's gonna be fine. Like when Pedro Pascal was cast as Joel, people were like, he don't look like Joel. And then they were like, oh, shoot.
Wait a minute, is he just a good actor?
Yeah, wait a minute, can he just act?
That doesn't make sense.
So I think it's going to be fine.
I leave the one that's going to ignite the internet, or do we get out of here?
I mean, you do need to earn some points back after that sexist rant you went on.
This is insane. You ready for my John David Washington, Issa Rae, Jabari Banks, and Javante Rhodes one?
Ah, yes. The all brown-eyed Fantastic
Come
Four.
on, man. We gotta go, man. You didn't complain when they made Jim Gordon black. But make the Fantastic Four black, the whole world just ends.
That's right. He did slide by that controversy. Nobody was like...
because there's no controversy to be had.
Nobody was like, Batman...
Is it because Jeffrey Wright's just cool?
Nobody was like, Batman's gone woke.
No, it was just like, Jim Gordon's got a cool voice now.
They were like, yeah. I almost said Jim Gordon. Jeffrey Wright, also in the Hunger Games, which is what we're going to talk about next week. Segways.
I can't wait. I can't wait to rewatch those movies because they're such a staple of like my.
The second one's so really good.
The second one, that's actual cinema. The second one does. The first one is just a roundabout found footage movie, and the second one's just some cinema. In there.
Yeah, what is going on with that first one? That first one is shot like it's an indie film. It's crazy.
Which I like.
I like it. It's just crazy.
One day we're gonna talk about it when we talk about the Hunger Games. Just how much Jennifer Lawrence absolutely owned the 2010s. Like it was.
And she's back.
Yeah, she is back. She's doing rom-coms now.
That's her bag, though.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Silver Linings Playbook is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, she was back for Causeway, which I really liked with Brian Tyree Henry. Obviously, she did No Hard Feelings. She is back.
She's back. Good for her.
She's got some Oscars to win in her lifetime. She's got some more to win. So
she's gonna show up at the end of this Hunger Games movie with Rachel Zegler and be like, "You're part of a bigger universe."
No.
Surprise!
You can't keep getting away with this.
Surprise! It's the Hunger Games multiverse.
You're a part of a way bigger district than you ever could have realized.
That's what they did in the third one.
Oh, they did do that. Oh, they did that. They did have a roundabout post-credit scene in the second one where she woke up.
Yeah, she woke up and they were like, "Welcome to District 13."
What? There's only 12 districts.
They told me District 13 got wiped out.
Not around here, partner. Not around here.
They lied.
They lied.
All right, guys. That's it. We're done here. It's good to be back.
It's good to be back.
I'm glad we're back. So yeah, next week we're going to talk about the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Obviously, the Hunger Games prequel that is being pretty well received.
Yeah. I've seen some pretty good stuff about it, which I like.
Apparently, the book is good. I got to read the book. The book is apparently very good.
Imagine reading.
Imagine books are for nerds.
That's what I'm saying. Having just read Dune and Dune Messiah, books are for nerds.
Nobody reads books.
Nobody reads. I can't read right now.
I can't read. Reed Richards.
Come on, man. We gotta go, man.
All right, guys.
Maybe the Reed Richards are the casting friends we made along the way, or the fan cast we made along the way.
R.I.P. to the Fantastic Four rumors, unless it's not true. Unless Pedro Pascal doesn't become Reed Richards. Then we get to do it all over again.
Oh, man. What's the funniest version of this?
I told you, the funniest version of this is you just don't see who they are until the movie comes out.
Oh, it's not the 80s anymore. They can't just
That would be crazy. Harrison Ford is.
Ben Grimm.
He would be the best Ben Grimm. He's the grumpiest person in the world.
Oh, man. If this movie would have came out in, like, the early 80s, yeah, Harrison Ford actually would have been an incredible Ben Grimm. Who would you... If it's the 80s, do you not just... Oh, man, this is actually really good. Meg Ryan plays Sue, right? Or would she be too young at that point?
In the 80s?
In the early 80s. No, she wouldn't be. No. Yeah, Meg Ryan is a good Sue. Who plays Johnny in... Oh, what am I talking about? Michael J. Fox plays Johnny in the 80s.
Absolutely.
Who plays Reed in the 80s? I don't know if it's...
Michael Douglas?
No. You know who plays Reed? I feel like, would you not get Bob Saget to play Reed? Is that too much of a reach? Because he's got the look.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Not at that point in his career.
Michael Douglas, man.
Michael Douglas would have been solid. Man, who should have played... Oh, man, that's actually a really good one. Who's a good... Who are some actors from the 80s?
I'll tell you what. I'm telling you this right now. Harrison Ford and Jack Nicholson will be boxing for Ben Grimm.
Oh, Jack would never do it.
No. Harrison Ford probably would.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Harrison Ford probably wouldn't even have given a second thought to that.
It's clobbering time.
Come on, man.
Either do like the grumpiest person or like the most muscular. You could do Stallone as Ben Grimm.
At that point, that probably would have made some sense.
All right, we'll workshop this. We'll do. Maybe that's what we do for an episode down the line, like a time capsule superhero casting.
And we just go crazy. We just find different actors to play different people at that time.
Like who plays Daredevil in the 1970s?
Richard Gere would have been the perfect Reed Richards. What am I talking about? Actually, that's the best one.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's actually incredible.
It's pretty good.
Jeff Bridges also would have played a pretty good Ben Grimm.
Yeah.
I love how you just have to be grumpy to play Ben Grimm. Like, that's the only thing we need. Tom Cruise plays a pretty good Johnny Storm if it's the early 80s.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a layup.
Morgan Freeman is Dr. Doom.
Now, listen here, Reed. Like, oh, no, he's too kind.
I can't even get mad at this guy. Oh, Kurt Russell also would have put his foot in the door for Reed as well.
Freaking Kurt Russell.
Is he too charismatic to play Reed?
He's pretty charismatic.
He is. I'm sticking with my Richard Gere. I think that's a really good Reed Richards. We gotta go, man. The Fantastic Four, directed by John Hughes.
All right, guys. We gotta go. You can follow us on Twitter at Project.
Don't you forget about Reed. We gotta
go. Oh, no.
We gotta go. We gotta get
Project INF_pod is the Twitter. You can follow us on Instagram.
At the Project Infinite Pod.
You can follow us on Facebook. And
if I didn't think we were going to have this many, like, Reed Richards puns. But look at us.
Yeah, next week we're going to talk some Hunger Games with the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So from me...
Careful, man.
From the...
You got to be real careful here, Fury.
From the Deadpool of the podcast.
That's a reach.
It's not a reach. Think about it.
You know what would have been a reach? If you would have gave me Reed Richards.
Reed Richards?
Can we just cast him already? This is getting ridiculous.
Oh, man. What if it is Adam Driver?
Twist. And Margot Robbie?
Yeah.
Wow.
What a twist. What if it's both casts? And it's a multiversal thing.
What if they do the Hickman Council of Reeds and it's just every single person we just said and they're all in there, including Richard Gere.
And John Krasinski is spaghetti. He portals in, just pieces, shreds of him fall to the ground. Like, what happened to him?
We didn't even talk about Madam Web.
Oh, no! Good. We'll save it for next week. We'll lead with it. Madam Web trailer came out.
Was it bad? Yeah. Do the people care?
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Not at all.
Am I going to treat it like how you treated Morbius? Yep. It's going to be my new
We
favorite
will be
movie.
there no matter what.
Maybe not. I don't know this time. Goodbye.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Peace.